For those of you whom I have not met, my name is Phil Bond. I'm the president of TechAmerica. Privileged to welcome you here today on behalf of TechAmerica, but also on behalf of the Northern Virginia Technology Council and the Technology Council of Maryland, who have joined us as co-sponsors for today, for a conversation really that goes right to the mission of TechAmerica, advancing the business of technology. And today talking of an advance and innovation in ways that you may deliver the business. I think we are all aware that by now that our world is famously flat, and that has given rise to work moving and global delivery models that have allowed the United States and outstanding companies to remain competitive and growing. We've also seen, along with that flat world, some other trend lines that have begun to be seen. In fact, almost 4 years ago now at then ITAA, Jeff Landy, whom you'll hear from in a moment, spotted a couple of those trend lines and began to wonder about the increasing competitiveness of especially rural but other underutilized areas of America. And that led to some real discussion of what today we call low-cost domestic sourcing. There are challenges and there are opportunities here that we want to talk about today. And along with those trends that we saw at that time from the flat world, we've seen new trends now in terms of greater bandwidth being pushed out, workforce training, stimulus funds, regional economic development plans and trends there, and governments who have spotted those trends, thinking of governors in particular, who've spotted some of those trends and seen an opportunity to make very competitive offerings to companies. So today, here's what we want to do in very brief presentations as we head toward a real interactive Q&A session. We're going to hear first from Jeff Landy, Executive Vice President of TechAmerica, who will tell you a little bit about the 30,000-foot trend lines, the earlier study, and what led TechAmerica to get into discussion about low-cost domestic sourcing. Next, we're going to look at somebody who's actually done it and a company who's emerged as a real leader there, CGI. We're pleased to have George Schindler, president of CGI Federal, with us today talking about some domestic sourcing that they have done as a company. George also, by the way, I'll note, is a member of our public sector board at TechAmerica, one of our great valued members. So we go from the overview to a company that has actually done it here, and then we want to focus on our friends from the state of Maine. We're thrilled to have John Richardson with us here today from the Economic and Community Development Commission. As you will hear, he is extraordinarily qualified to speak on this subject. He's also a former speaker of the House in Maine. He is, his business background includes stops at Coopers and Price Waterhouse, so this is somebody who really brings a unique combination of understanding what a state can offer, what is on the ground, and what makes business sense. So we'll look at the 30,000 foot, somebody who's actually done it, and then somebody who's in this space because of leadership by Governor John Baldacci and really making some interesting offers to companies that we think you ought to know about. That ought to lead to a rich discussion and make sure that we walk out of here on time, but with some real information that you can use in your businesses and a chance to connect with folks for follow-ups as well. So without any further ado, Jeff, let me call you on up to the podium. Give us a quick overview at the 30,000 foot level, then to the national level, and then to the state level with Maine.
Thank you, Phil. And we've done a couple of these around the country thus far, and we've found that what we have to say is, of course, valuable. But the real heart and substance of it is the dialogue that we have with you afterwards, which is why we're keeping all of our comments short. So a little background. If you go back 4 years ago, this is before CGI, before anybody really began getting to this model, although they were certainly looking at it. ITAA was spending a lot of time talking about the global model and the need for fair and free and open trade and cross-border data flows and everything. And as I was lobbying on that, and Harris was lobbying on that, the question was, well, what are we doing for America? American competitiveness, American innovation, and everything, because that truly fits in to this. And as we were meeting with members of Congress, particularly the Rural Caucus, Congressional Black Caucus, and such, the question was, well, what are you doing for America? And as we thought more about it, we came up with this notion of rural sourcing and sourcing in lower cost urban areas as well. There's really something there. We hired the woman who was running the sourcing practice at Gartner to do a thought piece for us on this. She really proved that there's something there. We also talked to the folks at McKinsey and elsewhere on this, flushed it out a bit more, and then commissioned a couple of additional studies. Began working with the great state of Maine, talked to people in the administration, talked to then candidate Obama, people on the Hill as well, and got a lot of buy-in for this. Now, you think offshore, you think onshore. You know, why wouldn't you just send more and more work offshore because of the cost advantage? The answer is not everything can go offshore. There have been a lot of problems with work going offshore. A rural and an inner city model really fit nicely into the sourcing strategy of an enterprise. You get a cost advantage, you get language skills, you get an incredibly talented workforce, you get infrastructure, you get the time issue. Instead of dealing with someone 10 hours ahead, you're dealing with someone maybe 2 hours ahead, 3 hours ahead at the most. So this really fits well. It also fits in well with what TechAmerica wants, what the administration wants. Stimulus money, we've got $7 billion from the Department of Agriculture that's going to flow out. We're having conversations with the administration about possibly directing some of this money here for the states to use and also for the companies to get. So the purpose of these forums is really helping talk about this, sensitize people, and encourage people to take more and more of this. And as Phil had mentioned, we've got a great example from CGI, who's one of the leaders, and then from the state of Maine, who really is primed to offer your companies destinations to set up captive operations. So that's a quick overview. So thank you.
Good afternoon. Just to give you a little bit of context about CGI, other than it's a great company, but just to give you a little context, we are a global IT services and business process services company. Offices, over 100 offices in 17 different countries. And naturally, and although our headquarters are here, our U.S. headquarters are here in the Fairfax, Virginia area, we obviously had embraced a global delivery model along with the rest of the industry, particularly to serve those clients from across. But as we looked at it from a U.S. perspective, and thought about it as far as we have nearshore centers in Canada, we have offshore centers in India. We looked at it and we said, how could we address some of the obvious issues that the companies have, that our clients were having with the time zones, the culture, other things that Jeff just mentioned. Those were the obvious issues, but how could we harness what we've learned from the global delivery centers and actually leverage that onshore? And this is of particular interest to me, and I think probably had a little more passion around it as the head of our federal government unit, because by definition, none of our federal work could go offshore or nearshore. And yet, there was obvious value that our customers were capturing from using those global delivery centers. So the challenge was, how could we create that onshore? And it really all starts with location. So that's a nice intro to your next speaker. But it really does all start with location. So as we said, okay, we want to figure out how to do this. We started really canvassing locations and really looking for a set of criteria that's going to make a difference. And we learned through this process, right? So we looked at dozens of localities across really all 50 states when we entered into this endeavor 5-6 years ago. And it really needs to have, first and foremost, the quality of life. And quality of life means both a place that people want to live and want to stay,